Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. The first, we have 3 public hearings starting at 7 o'clock. The first one is benefit assessment districts. I'll read the notice. Please take notice the Town Board of Town of Cornwall will hold the required annual public hearings on the 9th day of October 2018, 7 o'clock p.m. at Town Hall 183 Main Street, Cornwall, New York, on the benefit assessment districts for 2018 in the Town of Cornwall as follows. Cornwall Refuse District, Firthcliffe Heights Sewer District, Firthcliffe Sewer District, Beaver Dam Lake Sewer District, Majestic Sewer District, Hidden Glen Drainage District, Main Street Parking District, and Stone Hollow Drainage District. Town Board will, at the above date, time, and place, hear all persons interested in the subject matter thereof. Persons may appear in person or by agent. All written communications addressed to the Board must be received by the Board at or prior to the public hearings by order of the Town Board, Town of Cornwall, Renata McGee, Town Clerk. I will read by district the number of parcels and the units or points for each one. Cornwall Refuge District, 3,450 parcels, 39,784 units. Firthcliffe Heights Sewer District, 140 parcels, 1,658 units. Firthcliffe Sewer District, 358 parcels, 447 units. Beaver Dam Lake Sewer District, 190 parcels, 1,909 units. Majestic Sewer District, 3 parcels, 25 units. Hidden Glen Drainage District, 14 parcels, 14 units. Main Street Parking District, 40 parcels, 39 units. Stone Hollow Drainage District, 29 parcels, 29 units. I'll now declare the public hearing open. Anyone wishing to speak on the benefit districts? Okay. I'll ask one more time. Anyone wishing to speak on the benefit assessment districts? Hearing no one, motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Move second, discussion, roll call.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, the motion is carried. Next public hearing, we have to wait 7 minutes for, it's 7:10 p.m. So, sorry about that. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. We have the second public hearing. Second public hearing, notice of public hearing, the local law of vehicle and traffic. Please take notice. Please take notice the Town Board of the Town of Cornwall will hold a public hearing on the 9th day of October 2018 at 7:10 o'clock p.m. Town Hall 183 Main Street, Cornwall, New York, on a proposed local law of the year 2018 entitled Local Law Amending Chapter 143 of the Code, Town of Cornwall, entitled Vehicle and Traffic. Town Board of the Town of Cornwall has determined that it is appropriate and in the public interest to enact a local law to amend Town Code 143-7, Section 4, Section 120, Schedule 4, Section 143-28, Schedule 5, and Section 143-30, Schedule 7, regarding traffic signs in accordance with the recommendation of the Town Highway Superintendent and Chief of Police. A copy of the proposed local law is on file in the Office of the Town Clerk and available for inspection by interested persons during Town Clerk's business hours. Town Board will, at the above date, time, and place, hear all persons interested in the subject matter hereof. Person may appear in person or by agent. All written communications addressed to the Board must be received by the Board at or prior to the public hearing by order of the Town Board, Town of Cornwall, Renata McGee, Town Clerk. I do have a petition that was submitted with a little over 30 names. We, the undersigned residents of Cornwall, do hereby request the immediate return of a stop sign to Angola Road located at the traffic circle, along with a warning to all that a right-of-way be obeyed at all times. These signs, vehicle and traffic amendments, are primarily for the signage at the traffic circle. I think there was one stop sign in Firthcliffe Heights and a parking restriction on Hudson Street. I'll now declare the public hearing open. Anyone wishing to speak on the proposed local law? Yes, sir. If you give your name, please.
Larry Silverman, and I live on Hudson Street. And the house that's in question, the parking that's in question is where my house is. And I feel you're asking for 100, can I bring you something?
Sure, come on up.
You're asking for 140 feet for a no parking zone, and I think that's completely excessive. I don't think the visibility is blocked to that degree. I have here pictures of a couple streets in downtown and of Hudson Street, both with our cars behind the sign and with traffic coming. And I do not feel at all that with our cars parked behind the sign that it is, vehicles are blocked. The first is Union Street, first picture, and you see how much clearance there is there and what the visibility is. The second picture is Torrey Street. The third picture is our street, Hudson Street. That's my house, and those are our two vehicles parked behind the telephone pole there. Okay? The following picture showed oncoming traffic. This is taken at the stop sign on Veterans Way. Okay? The third picture shows oncoming traffic and the visibility and where you pick up cars coming. And I feel there is plenty of clearance for there to be cars parked behind the telephone pole on Hudson Street. I don't think, that 144 feet, which is basically the whole length of our property, is necessary for clearance. I feel part of the problem, if people are saying they can't make left turns off of Veterans Way because of clearance, I don't necessarily think it's clearance. I think it is cars coming down Hudson Street at excessive speeds. And because I know when we try and cross there with our baby, our grandbaby, with our grandbaby, that there are, it's hard to cross because people do not slow down. I also think we would be benefited by having a crosswalk at Hudson and Veterans Way with a pedestrian right of way, so people, because it's not only us, people are walking their babies in the park, their dogs in the park, they're running in the park. After school, a lot of kids come from the middle school up that way. Sometimes my granddaughter, Mia Silverman, comes up that way, and I don't think it's necessarily a car problem. Do we need to increase and park behind the telephone pole to give that clearance? I'm all for that. I want things to be safe, but safety is more than just that visibility. I think that we can all come to an understanding that 140 feet is excessive. We are looking to get a road cut, a curb cut on Hudson Street to put a driveway in up above. When we first moved here, we've been residents of Cornwall for now a little over 6 months. When we first moved here, we were parking on Veterans Way. We were told, asked not to park on Veterans Way. We're perfectly fine with that. We want to cooperate, but we also like cooperation back when, if this was blocking people's view, I'd be the first one to say, okay, we won't park there, but I don't think that is the case in this instance.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? Vehicle traffic, yes.
Hi, Kathy Shannon, 11 Sky Drive. I have a question. Hudson Street is county road, right?
No, Hudson Street's a town road.
So why do they have to get a cut in from the county?
On Hudson Street?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know
And
why
I
you...
was told by the highway supervisor that Hudson Street is a county road.
No, it would be, the backside of the property would be the county road, which is Main Street, but Hudson Street by Rings Pond is a town road.
So why do they have to have a cut in from the county?
They wouldn't. They would get the cut in from the,
Told that by the town, right?
no, it would come from the town, the highway department.
So he can get a cut in from the
Sure,
town?
absolutely.
All right, I have another question. If we're this concerned at 140 feet, why have we not addressed Main Street where you take your life in your hands?
Well, Main Street...
Why have we not addressed Broadway where people are all over both sides of Broadway? That is basically a one-lane road. We're addressing one little spot where we want an incredible visibility. And maybe the other thing to look at is maybe making Veterans Way one way heading towards Main Street.
Thank you. Anyone else? Chief, you want to just, so you can go on the record as to, you did an analysis of the Hudson Street Veterans Way intersection?
We've gotten a written complaint, and we've gotten some other informal complaints. I looked at the area. I, for one, actually don't travel that way. I like to take the traffic light and make no left, but that's just me. So coming up there, because of the slope of the road and the way Hudson Street offsets, with the cars parked there, it makes it difficult for some people to see if they're going to make the left or the right, because they have to come up higher and they feel they're getting into the way of traffic. The spots you identified on Main Street are all horrific intersections to see, but that's the downtown area where there's street parking. that one, First Street you mentioned, I don't know if it was Union or Cornwall, that's terrible to see, and again, that's a intersection of
I
private
just
way.
want to show you that, okay, so this is where we're parked behind
I
the,
know, it's fine.
and that's oncoming traffic from, that's the stop sign. And you have clear vision.
I understand the intersection, but I can't really speak to your photographs, because.
No, I understand that, I'm just trying to show you.
I know the area, I wrote the letter, I informed you of the public hearing, and that's basically.
Okay, thanks, Chief. Anyone else wishing to speak on the proposed local law? Hearing no one else, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Move second, discussion, roll call.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, the motion is carried. Okay, we're past 7:15. The next public hearing, I'll read the notice of public hearing. Please take notice, the Town Board of the Town of Cornwall will hold a public hearing on the 9th day of October 2018 at 7:15 p.m. Town Hall, 183 Main Street, Cornwall, New York, on a proposed local law of the year 2018 entitled Local Law to Amend the Town Code by Revising Chapter 111 entitled Peddling and Soliciting. Town Board of the Town of Cornwall has determined that it is appropriate and in the public interest to enact a local law for the purpose of requiring local permits for all vendors and clarifying the terms and conditions upon which such permits may be granted. Copy of proposed local law is on file in the office of the Town Clerk and available for inspection by interested persons during the Town Clerk's business hours. Town Board will, at the above date, time, and place, hear all persons interested in the subject matter hereof. Persons may appear in person or by agent. All written communications addressed to the Board must be received by the Board at or prior to the public hearing. By order of the Town Board, Town of Cornwall, Renata McGee, Town Clerk. Steve, you want to just give a brief overview of
Sure.
proposed?
The town code requires peddler's permits for anyone engaging in peddling or solicitation on the streets of the town. It currently has an exemption for anyone holding a license from the state of New York. This local law would, a peddling license from the state of New York. This local law would repeal that provision so that even if you have a peddling license from the state of New York, you still have to get a local peddler's permit, which I might add is specifically anticipated in the law that allows the state to give peddler's permits. Well, the state peddler's permit, it says you can peddle provided that you obtain a local license if such is required by the municipality. The other thing this local law does is it revises the terms and provisions for granting a license just to make it more clear what the procedure is and what the criteria is for grant of license. The application still goes to the town clerk, and upon receipt, the town clerk still refers it to the police chief, just as we do now, but now we've laid out 5 criteria for granting of the permit. And that's really about it.
Okay, I'll declare the public hearing open. Anyone wishing to speak on this proposed amendment to the peddler's ordinance, local law? Okay, anyone wishing to speak on this proposed local law? Hearing no one, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt? Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, the motion is carried. Okay, ask you please stand for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have approval of minutes, September 10th, Town Board regular meeting, September 27th, bid opening. Is there a motion on the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second? Discussion, roll call?
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Public comment, agenda items, anyone wish to speak on any item on the agenda? Okay, hearing no one. First item on the agenda is a resolution, benefit assessment districts. Whereas heretofore the town of Cornwall held the public hearings on benefit assessment districts for 2018 on the following districts: Cornwall Refuse District, Firth Cliff Heights Sewer District, Firth Cliff Sewer District, Beaver Dam Lake Sewer District, Majestic Sewer District, Hidden Glen Drainage District, Main Street Parking District, and Stone Hollow Drainage District. Whereas after the town board reviewed all of the comments by the public hearings were closed. Now therefore be resolved as follows, that the town board does hereby adopt the 2018 benefit assessment district goals as submitted. Is there a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Move second, discussion, roll call.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bond? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, the motion is carried. I will read the resolution, and then we can discuss the next item, which is on the local law on the vehicle and traffic. Whereas heretofore, the town board has considered the adoption of local law entitled, the local law amending chapter 143 of the Code of the Town of Cornwall entitled Vehicles and Traffic. Whereas following due notice, the town board held a public hearing on the proposed local law. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. One, the town board does hereby adopt the above local law, which said law shall be effective upon publication, posting, filing in the office of the Secretary of State in Albany. And two, that the town board determines that the adoption of this local law is a type 2 action under SECRA. One thing I will say, just based on information that we did receive tonight with the petition and the comments made, I might suggest that we consider if we want to make any amendments to it, or if we want to go ahead and adopt this. So if we want to go ahead and entertain a motion in a second, but if we want to postpone any action on it.
Well, you could do that, or if you were so inclined, you could just strike the section on the parking and adopt the rest of it. There's no reason to have to take it all or nothing as far as that goes. Or if you want to put it over, you could, you don't have to make a decision tonight.
But if
you're
we
going to have to notice another public hearing.
But if we modify, even if we modify the parking limitation on Hudson Street again,
You can modify it to make it less than you noticed the public hearing for. You can't make it more. So if you decided we're going to put it over, and then next month we're going to adopt it as 100 feet, 70 feet, 50, whatever it is you think is appropriate, you could certainly do that without renoticing the public hearing.
I think the one thing too with the petition we got regarding the traffic circle, when the upgrades were done to the traffic circle, it was a stop sign at Angola and a traffic circle. I think a number of these signatures are from residents at Idlewild, and so I think their feeling is that, at least with the stop sign, people were going slower when they entered the traffic circle. I think the chief has indicated the problem with the traffic sign was a lot of people would roll through it, whereas the yield sign, now they don't even roll through it, they just go through it. So I could see, certainly that could be something of concern. So what I would suggest, if the board is in agreement, we're going to be meeting next week to have a budget work session. We can discuss the proposed amendment, and we can then make any changes to the new draft and set a new public hearing.
If you want to do a new draft, you can. I'm telling you, and that's the board's prerogative. Absolutely, you can do that and notice it again if you want. But the law is, when you have a local law, particularly one like this that sets a dimensional requirement, and you notice a public hearing and say we want to have, in this case, 140 feet, and you decide you're going to adopt the local law as modified to make it less than 140 feet, you do not need to renotice your public hearing.
No, but I'm more concerned about the stop sign and the yield sign at
okay,
Angola.
okay. Well, yeah, you could do that and then renotice it for November.
That's what I'm thinking would be the best thing
That's what
to do.
That's what
I agree.
So there's a motion to table, take it up at our,
Yes, I'll make a motion to
is there a second?
table
Second.
it.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bond? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes. All right, motion is carried, and we'll discuss it, and we'll proceed from there, and possibly have another public hearing then in November. Okay. All right, whose phone is that? Okay, next item is the resolution, local law peddling and soliciting. Whereas heretofore the town board has considered the adoption of a local law entitled Local Law to Amend the Town Code by revising Chapter 111 entitled Peddling and Soliciting. Whereas following due notice, the town board held a public hearing on the proposed local law. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. One, that the town board does hereby adopt the above local law, which said local law shall be effective upon publication, posting, and filing in the office of the Secretary of State in Albany. Two, that the town board determines that the adoption of this local law is a type 2 action under SECRA. Is there a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bond? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, the motion is carried. The next item is Bill Brain, who chairs our Economic Development Advisory Committee, provided the town board with a list of several items for policies that they wanted the board to consider for economic development in Main Street area, and the board did review that. And I believe that one of the things, and they did this on a priority, to conduct a traffic survey to quantify current state of traffic and parking in the Main Street downtown area, gather insights, suggestions, and potential solutions, ensure safety and free flow of traffic, encourage pedestrian-friendly economics, address options for long-term parking, address options to increase parking turnover. The board certainly, parking has been discussed. The Main Street parking's probably been discussed since the 1950s. I can tell you that for sure because I found a typewritten page, I think it was dated 1960 or 61, where a planner actually came in and looked at Main Street. And you could actually just take that piece of paper and put it in a folder in 2018 because not much has changed with regard to traffic flow and parking. But I think the board feels that having a professional come in and do that evaluation, that we can make that part of the Main Street grant that Senator Scoofus obtained for the town. And once we get the approval on that, we could go ahead and retain a consultant to do the traffic study for the Main Street area. The other item, one of the items they had was shop local events, encourage, support Greater Chamber of Commerce, expand the number of pedestrian-focused weekend events in the Main Street area. So the Economic Development Committee would like to work with the Chamber in terms of just trying to expand that. Talk about the possibility of a concert being held up in the Main Street area or the farmers market, one or more times a year. I think of the other items, the tourism partnership, Economic Development Committee conducts a series of business development meetings with tourism stakeholders, develop cooperative ideas to attract local vendors to Main Street, downtown, the greater Cornwall area. We'll be reaching out to the Storm King Arts Center, Hudson Highland Nature Museum, Chamber, hey Peter, Black Rock Forest, Orange County Land Trust. So I think if the board agrees with those three items that we'll just do it by a vote. The other ones the board is going to consider, but this time we thought we would act on those. Architectural and aesthetic standards for Main Street, plants and flowers, which is sort of an ongoing thing, and then NYSERDA clean energy certification and car charging stations. So if we would entertain a motion to approve the traffic survey, shop local events, and tourism partnership for the economic development to move ahead on those items.
So moved.
Second.
Move second, discussion.
What do you think the cost of that traffic study would be?
Bill Brain was going to try to obtain an estimate for us so we can include it in the grant that we're putting in with the assemblyman.
Do we have the grant?
We have the $125,000. We're just putting together the plan on how it's
Does
going
it
to
have to
be.
be used for traffic survey? Is there other things that can be used for?
Well, we do have other things that are planned for it. Improvements, working with the county. The county's going to repave Main Street next year, and a good portion of the money will go to actually embedding crosswalks in the Main Street area.
Okay, so there's other purposes for that we can use the
Yeah, we
grant
can,
money for?
yeah.
So my question again is, what are we gonna learn from the traffic study?
Well, we'll know better after the traffic study, I think, to be honest. I mean, it hasn't been done in years, and I don't know, I think back
And the
in,
idea was to increase traffic on Main Street so we could support businesses.
well, it's increased traffic or turnover parking spaces or whatever, but I think it's worth having a professional look at it. I think the last time was at the Glenwood study,
Yeah.
had a lot of information about Main Street.
Yeah, I don't think they did an actual.
Parking, no,
traffic
but
study.
parking always comes up, but again, it wasn't a consultant specifically hired for it.
All right, I just
Traffic
think
parking.
there's other uses that we could use the money for.
Okay. So we have a roll call vote?
Mr. Russell?
No.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Peter, if you have other suggestions for Main Street,
Well, I think our ultimate goal is to drive traffic to Main Street to support businesses on Main Street.
right.
I just don't think we need a traffic study to do that.
Well, I think more so, I'm more interested in terms of how you define traffic. I think the parking is believed to be an issue. The perception of it is that's an issue, and so they're looking to, to get a handle, to see if there are any suggestions on, how we can turn over parking spaces, create more parking spaces.
And at this point, Peter, we're not authorizing the traffic study, we're authorizing them to come back to us with quotes.
Right.
That's
Right.
what we're doing. We're not
So that we can-
authorizing the traffic study, we're authorizing them to get quotes.
And if we have the study done, the money to come from the schools.
Correct.
Yes.
Main Street.
But we determine
I
that
get it,
based
I
on
just
the
feel there's
cost.
there's other
Yeah.
priorities that we have for Main
And
Street.
if it's
We
a
have
crazy amount of money, then maybe we revisit
We
it.
use that money to accomplish those goals.
Well,
The ultimate goal, obviously, is to bring customers to Main Street to support business.
and again, Peter, if you have suggestions, let us know. Helen and I are on the Main Street Committee through the Assemblyman's office. Let us know, and we'll see what we can incorporate with it.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, next is a resolution on a proposal for the treatment of Rings Pond in 2019. Whereas the town board has before the proposal from the pond and lake connection for treatment of the pond at Town Hall Park, and whereas the town is prepared to accept said proposal, therefore be it resolved as follows: the town board hereby agrees to enter into an agreement with the pond and lake connection and authorize the supervisor to execute the same. I do want to say, the proposal is, it's estimated at $3,250, and Stephen Fogarty, who came to the town during the summer, has agreed to raise the money to offset the cost of the pond treatment for the town.
Question, do you remember, is this something that would be required annually or periodically?
It would be probably some annual treatment, would be, depending, it could be one treatment, depending on how they analyze
Oh,
it
thank
each
you.
year. Yeah. And this is all in concert, obviously, with DOT getting the permits and everything that's required. So, is there a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second? Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Next item is the ad hoc committee that the board created back in January to review sites or locations for potential historical museum building, has submitted a report to the board, and with a lot of backup data. They looked at the sites that had been discussed at the informational meeting and other residents had brought to the board. They issued the report with pros and cons of the various sites, and Helen was the liaison for the board. So Helen, you want to add to that?
Right, and a lot of the committee is here, I think most of them are here. So after a lot of work and a lot of help with computer technology, which I am lacking in, they did pretty much come down to not finding anything much better than the piece of land that was originally offered, suggestion by the town. So they are not making any recommendations. They are doing what they were charged to do, and that's research and come back to us with that information, which that information is available to anyone, who wants to see it. I don't know if anybody, you want to let anyone from the committee speak?
If there's anyone who wants to make any comment. I do want to say that the committee went above and beyond. They contacted several historical societies, I think,
It was
in
a
Orange
very
County.
extensive, a lot of work they put into it.
Yeah.
They
Just-
didn't just blow it away.
Yeah.
They did a lot of work. I commend them.
So, yeah, I want to thank them for the time and effort. Anyone want to comment on that, of the committee? If you're satisfied, we're satisfied? Okay. Thanks very much, though. We do appreciate it. We have a memo from Chief Hazard. Town of Cornwall Police Department is once again looking to participate in No Shave November to raise money for cancer awareness, requesting the town board allow me to suspend the general order that requires officers to be clean shaven for the month of November. Officers who elect to participate would be required to make a monetary donation of $20 to the American Cancer Society. Participating officers would still need to keep all facial hair neatly trimmed. Long, stringy beards would not be permitted. On December 1st, normal grooming standards would be back in effect. Respectfully submitted, Chief Hazard. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Or second? Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Okay, I'm going to read the resolution. We did receive we went out to bid on demolition of a unsafe structure at 40 Paradise Road. We received 2 bids. Totaling Burns and Whalen Contractors submitted 1 bid for on item 1 and 2 totaling $59,600. And Yankee Construction Company a total of $39,000. That's to, I guess there's a review for asbestos, but then removal, tear down and removal of the building. And the cost of this will be placed on the taxes for the property. But the town had to do this because the building was considered beyond repair and in an unsafe condition, and the property owner, I guess the communications were that it was not in a position to remove the unsafe building. So I'll read the resolution. Whereas the town's consulting engineers, McGaughy, Hauser, and Etzel, solicited quotes for the demolition of unsafe structure at 40 Paradise Hill in the town of Cornwall. Whereas MHE received quotes from 2 vendors. Whereas by letter dated October 9th, 2018, there's an extra 8 in there. MHE has recommended that the quote submitted by Yankee Construction Company of New York, Inc., Yankee, in the amount of $39,000 be accepted. Now therefore be resolved as follows. 1, the town board hereby awards the above demolition contract to Yankee in the bid amount of $39,000, and that the town board directs that notice of the award be sent to Yankee and to McGaughy, Hauser, and Etzel. And 3, the supervisor authorized to execute the above contract together with the other related documents. Is there a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Next item is a resolution, award bid, Town Hall rear entrance, accessible improvements. This is through a grant from Senator Larkin. We went out to bid on that project and also the Town Hall windows, which I'll comment on next. But I have a letter from the engineer. Received 2 bids for the project. Project involves demolition of existing concrete sidewalk, curbs, limited pavement, and installation of a new concrete walk and new accessible door operator. PCC Contracting, Inc. bid $79,875, and Malum Enterprises, LLC bid $74,000. Based on review of the scope of the work and proposals submitted, it is our opinion that the bid values are reasonable based on current construction costs. Our office is currently working with Malum Enterprises, LLC on a large project in the town of Monroe. Based on this project history, it's our opinion that they're capable of completing the project in a professional manner. Based on the above, it's our recommendation the town of Cornwall award the project in base bid amount of $74,000 to Malum Enterprises, LLC, if funding permits. If the town board so desires, a notice of award should be sent to the contractor as soon as possible. Signed by Andrew Warren, resident architect, registered architect. I do want to mention that I think in the grant that we had, it was around $62,000 or $62,500. But I guess I'll read the resolution, and just also as part of it would be that any additional costs, we have a funds in the town hall capital account that we would use the balance from the town hall capital funds to pay any shortfall. Whereas the town's consulting engineers, McGaughy, Hauser, Etzel, solicited quotes for town hall improvement project contract 2, accessible rear entry. Whereas McGaughy, Hauser, Etzel received quotes from 2 vendors, and whereas by letter dated October 9, 2018, MHE has recommended the quote submitted by Malum Enterprises, LLC in the amount of $74,000 be accepted. And now therefore be resolved as follows. 1, the town board hereby awards the above to Malum Enterprises in the bid amount of $74,000. And 2, the town board directs that the notice of the award be sent to Malum Enterprises, LLC, and to McGaughy, Hauser, and Etzel. 3, the supervisor authorized to execute the above contract together with other related documents. 4, that the town board determines that the adoption of this local law is a type 2 action under SECRA. Is there a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. The next item, we went out to bid with actually the contract. The bid included 2 projects. One was the rear access, the other was replacement of the windows in the town hall. Unfortunately, no contractors submitted bids for the window replacements, so we're going to have to rebid that. But I'll read the resolution. Whereas the town board had authorized going to public bid for town hall improvements, contract 1, window replacement And whereas the bids were returnable on October 9th, 2018, and whereas no bids were received, whereas the consulting engineers for the town have recommended putting the project out for rebid at the earliest possible date, therefore be resolved as follows. Town Board hereby authorizes the resolicitation of bids for the said Town Hall improvements contract 1, window replacement at a date, time, and place to be determined by the supervisor of the town's consulting engineers. Again, we have, I think, $55,000 from Senator Larkin's grant for the Town Hall work, and, but we had no bidders. So, is there a motion on the resolution to rebid?
So moved.
Is there a second? Discussion?
Quick question.
Yes.
Are they going to be replacing just the jambs, or are they replacing the entire frame?
They're the double hung windows, all the windows themselves will be
Right, but
replaced.
there's a cheap way to do it, and that's just replacing the windows themselves. And a more expensive way is to remove the entire frame, and it's in concrete. So I wonder if our estimate of 48,000 is enough to.
It's 55,000,
55.
about 55. But I think, my understanding is that all the work will be done from the outside, so they're gonna be pulling the windows out. They're not cutting away inside the building for it, so it's out.
There's a lot of
outside.
windows.
There's 50-some.
Having replaced a fair
50-some
number of
windows,
windows
yeah.
myself, I know that the cost is pretty high on
Yeah.
a per window basis.
And, we'll see where it goes, but we certainly want to at least get a couple of bids in to see where it's at. But it has to be done, these are original windows, which are beautiful windows, but they don't open and they don't close. If you open them in the spring, you're lucky if you get them closed in the fall. Most of them don't work at all. So, is there a motion, then we have the motion, we have a second, and roll call?
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. Meneses?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Have a resolution on Stone Hollow subdivision, release of performance security, whereas Stone Hollow subdivision, Stone Hollow received conditional approval from the Town of Cornwall Planning Board in 2008, whereas at that time the town's consulting engineers, MHE, recommended the town board require performance security in the amount of $1,873,115.55, which Stone Hollow provided, whereas in 2009, Stone Hollow caused improvements to be constructed on the site, and the town granted a reduction in the performance security to $1,456,875.95. And whereas in March of 2017, Stone Hollow caused improvements to be constructed on the site, and the town granted a reduction in the performance security to $847,380.45. Whereas McGoley Housing Edsel has reviewed the current request for reduction in performance security and now recommends performance security in the reduced amount of $557,315.11. Now therefore be resolved as follows: the town board does hereby set performance security for Stone Hollow in the reduced amount of $557,315.11 be submitted to the attorney in the form of either cash or letter of credit for review and approval. Is there a motion on the resolution?
It's
Second one.
11 and 12 reverse.
Oh, did I reverse that one?
Yes.
Oh, release of it, oh, decrease. All right, we'll do number 12 first. This is on the decrease then, of it.
So moved.
All right, I mean, you're down to, I mean, they're ready to vote on it.
That's what I'm saying, no, we're gonna vote
Oh,
on
okay.
it. Just took it out of order.
So moved.
Who's so moved in a second?
Second.
Discussion, roll call?
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Now, the other one got stuck with a paperclip. Too many paper clips, gotta start using staples. Okay, so that was number 12, that was on the decrease of the performance. Next is on the release of the performance security. Whereas the Stone Hollow subdivision, Stone Hollow received conditional approval from the Town of Cornwall Planning Board in 2008. Whereas at that time, the town required performance security in the amount of $7,500 for completion of the pump station. Whereas the town's consulting engineers, MHE, have reviewed the project, owner's current request for the release of the performance security, and now recommends the town release said performance security, but withhold approval for dedication to the pump station until all public improvements have been installed. Therefore be resolved as follows: one, that the town board does hereby release the performance security in the amount of $7,500 for the Stone Hollow pump station. Two, that based upon the recommendations of MHE, the town board will withhold approval of dedication of the pump station until such time as all public improvements have been installed. Is there a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Next item is on Bridge Street update that let the board know, and the public know, last month, after having received a report from the county DPW bridge engineers and the commissioner, the board voted to, well, first of all, the bridge has been closed to vehicle traffic since 2007. It was inspected by the state at that time and had deficiencies, and so the bridge was closed. That fall in 2007, I had asked the county bridge engineers to come and take a look at it. They did an extensive report with some cost estimates, obviously indicating that a considerable amount of work to be done. And so with the Main Street work that we've been doing with the Main Street grant and looking at that, we did ask the county engineers to come in and actually just review the file for any thoughts or recommendations. They didn't physically, they used the reports that are on file. We received an email from Eric Deniga, the Commissioner of Public Works, and based on his report, and I think the one key sentence was two sentences. Our engineers feel there may be an option to perform short-term mitigation measures utilizing steel beams and cables to retain the structure of the stone arches on either side of the bridge, and also to eliminate as much water infiltration as possible by remortaring the joints to prevent any further loss of stones in the arch. This theoretically could stabilize the crossing for passive pedestrian use only, along with a program of routine monitoring by a qualified consultant. And the fact that they've identified a stabilizing process that could be undertaken to stabilize the bridge, from a liability standpoint, the town feels it's in our best interest to close it to pedestrian traffic until our town engineers have an opportunity to do an actual physical inspection of the bridge again and give a report to the town board. I've spoken with McGoey, Hauser, and Etzel. Their structural engineers will be taking a look at the bridge, and we expect to have the report to the board by mid-November, if all goes well. So we'll see what they report. And unfortunately with the bridge, unlike a person, they have an immune system and they might get better if they're ill. Nothing's been done to the bridge other than there was some improvement, a drainage improvement coming from Main Street, which had created some of the problems. But the bridge has been closed for more than a decade. It's not going to get better by itself. And actually doing nothing really is no longer an option. It is a liability, exposure for the town. And so I think this is the most responsible thing to do. We'll see what our town engineers come up with. Hopefully they're going to come up with some cost estimates and some possible work that could be done. It could be the stabilizing, it could be rehabbing the bridge, it could be removal of the bridge, replaced with a walkway, obviously to connect Main Street with the residents on the other side of the stream. But either way, one other item that too was brought up, and I know there's been some concern. In the interim, there's been this plastic fencing and some barrels that have been put up. Somebody took a photo, I think, and put it on social media about a couple of kids trying to get around it. The fence has obviously been cut. So we are going to go ahead and install just a temporary chain link, just so it's sturdier and more secure. But one thing that the engineers did point out when we were looking at Main Street and we walked back to look at the bridge is that the railings on the bridge itself, as the one engineer pointed out, it creates a beautiful ladder for kids to just step by step climb up to the top of the railing. So that's something that we'll absolutely have to address also in terms of anything that we do. So it is an exposure. When I was out there after our meeting last month, met with the highway superintendent and a local business person that owns a business right there, and his office looks out at the bridge, has told me that more than once he's seen kids just walking along on the top of the railing. So there is an exposure, there is a hazard. I think we've been knowing for a long time at some point in time we're going to have to address the real issues of the bridge, and I think this will be the appropriate time to get a full report from our engineers, and then the board can discuss it and come up with a course of what we're going to do with it. But we understand the importance of the pedestrian being able to walk from the other side of the creek onto the Main Street area and vice versa, and also having an access there is important, and that's certainly going to be one of the concerns that we have that we will address no matter what the solution is going to be for the bridge. So I think the board's taken the appropriate steps. We have a responsibility to the community, we have a responsibility to our taxpayers to not unnecessarily expose us to risk. And, you know, I mean, I've heard people say the bridge has been there for how many years and it hasn't fallen down. Well, that only works to a certain point. If you think back in the past decade, we've had some really major storms, I think Irene being one, and other storms that have really torn through that area. So it's wise for us to get a full-blown engineering report with some courses of action that we can consider. So-
I will only point out that it's not receiving the same kind of stress as it would if there was vehicular traffic on the bridge. So if we can make it last another 30 years by supplementing the structure with mortar or filling in or whatever method is available, I hope that that's a solution for us.
Well, I think that's what we're gonna look at. I mean, the county mentioned that the stabilization where they put steel beams, they talked about the Willow Avenue Bridge right up from Main Street. And they said that might be something that we may wanna consider. They actually put a steel beam and cables that connected them. It lasted for a few years, and then they had to do a replacement of the bridge. But in the case of Bridge Street, where we're not gonna see any vehicular traffic, the stabilization may work for more than just a few years. Maybe it'll go, who knows, 5 years, 8 years. But at least that's a possibility that we certainly can consider. But we're absolutely gonna have to do something on it, so that the town is protected and that there's gonna be safe passage for who's ever gonna be utilizing the bridge. So we'll look forward to getting a report.
Yeah, one other point is that it is a historical structure, and if it were taken down, two things would happen. The agency for Parks and Rec would get involved with taking down historical structures, and it would destabilize the bank, the river bank, creekside bank, so that the houses that are on the other side of the creek could be destabilized, their foundations could.
Well, I think two points with that, Michael, is historic preservation at the state level. Yes, you know, they certainly are interested in preserving. That bridge has been modified. The original stone arch is there, but 20 years ago, that bridge was, the top of it was completely replaced with steel and concrete.
And over the years, they've modified the abutments too.
Right, and the abutment. And it's, the fact is, even if the bridge were to be taken down, the abutments may be able to stay in place.
Right.
That's what the engineer is gonna look at
Right.
and see, and that'll help us determine what options are gonna be best for the community. Okay, next is an application for a commercial audiovisual production, Roche, R-O-C-H-E, Photo Inc. They're out of Michigan. Location of event, including sites for parking, running, cable storage. It's gonna be at Storm King Highway Lookout Point. It's a Cadillac photo shoot. Photograph the background, played street and vista. No picture car, 5 to 6 5-minute closures. Crew of 15 people. And they're gonna be securing assistance from the state police. Have you had any other contact with them?
Yes, I told him what our conditions were, I told him we would approve it tonight, and he was fine with it.
Good.
He said, you already gave us the insurance, he's gonna hand deliver a check.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is there a motion to approve?
So,
Is there a second? Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt?
yes,
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Ida?
Yes, motion is carried. I have a proposal from M&R Energy Resources Corp. This is for the electric supplier. A couple of years ago, we entered into an agreement. It's now time for a new agreement for the rate that we pay for electric. And they obtained 4 different quotes. Right now, we're paying .07161. And the new rate for a 24-month period will be .06567. So there is some savings there, and we do it for a 24-month. She had 3 other quotes on here, and they were all higher. East Coast Power was the lowest. So I have a resolution, whereas the town board has before it a proposal from East Coast Power and Gas LLC by its broker M&R Energy for the sale and delivery of natural gas and/or electricity. Whereas the town is prepared to accept said proposal, therefore be resolved as follows. The town board hereby agrees to enter into an agreement with East Coast Power and Gas LLC and authorizes the supervisor to execute the same. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Helen, second Peter. Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion's carried. We have a request from our Recreation Department for the Farmers Market. They would like the board to just approve a Vendors Appreciation Day. The Farmers Market's going to be wrapping up the end of the month, but instead of the usual $25 fee, that we charge $10 for that day only, just to express our appreciation to the vendors and hope that they keep coming back. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Move second, discussion, roll call?
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Next, I have a resolution on a change order for the work that has been done to the wading pool, the refurbishment. Whereas heretofore, the town board awarded a contract to Houston Enterprises, Inc. for certain restoration and resurfacing work in the wading pool in Town Hall Park. Whereas a proposed change order in the amount of $3,000 has been submitted to the town for coping work and additional restoration work behind near the main fountain. Whereas Houston Enterprises, Inc. will be seeking no further compensation in regard to the project. Now therefore be resolved as follows. 1, town board hereby approves said change order in the amount of $3,000 for the above referenced additional work. And 2, the supervisor is hereby authorized to execute the change order and any other related documents necessary for completion of work. Is there a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Next item is engineering agreement, a new roof, police department and annex. Timing is always everything. Senator Larkin has been great obtaining another grant for us for the replacement of the roof on the police department and annex. So the engineer is now putting together specifications. The roof does leak considerably, and given the rain that we've had this year, it's proven it multiple times. So this is an agreement for McGoey Hauser and Edsel to do the engineering work on it, and then they're putting together the specs, and they'll come back to the board, and we'll see at what point we're at with the grant and the funding and all, but we really got to get moving on the roof. Whereas the town board has before the proposed agreement with McGoey Hauser and Edsel Consulting, MHE, to install a new roof on the police department annex building adjacent to town hall. Whereas the town board finds that the proposed agreement is acceptable in the best interest of the town, and therefore be resolved as follows. 1, town board does hereby approve said agreement. 2, the supervisor is hereby authorized to sign said agreement. 3, the town board determines that the adoption of this local law is a type 2 action under SECRA. And I will mention that the cost of the engineering is lump sum. Basic design phases, bid phases, $8,900. Construction phase services would be invoiced hourly in accordance with the attached fee. Is there a motion on the resolution?
There's enough money in the grant to cover all that.
It depends on where the bids come in. I mean, I think we estimated a certain amount that's in the grant. One of the things that that we run into is, again, asbestos keeps cropping up as it has with the windows. So we had to retain an asbestos consultant to evaluate it, and there is some findings that'll have to be addressed, and it'll be the same thing. We just approved the contract for the consultant to look at the roof in turn to see if there's any asbestos that has to be dealt with. So, but the main thing is getting the specs together, and then we'll see where but we have a roof that we have to fix, and one way or another, we have to fix it. So, replace it. Okay, been moved and seconded?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. We received a letter from the Department of State, Community Project Appropriation. I think about 2 years ago, I requested a $14,000 grant through Assemblyman Skoufis for refurbishment of the Civil War cannon that's been missing from the triangle for a couple of years now. And they have so many contracts up in Albany that they deal with this, that this just came through with the contract paperwork. But we did get the grant for $14,000. So I just want to mention that. We're sending back the contract, signed and all. We need approval. We approved the grant.
I think you approved the grant.
We approved the grant, so we're all set with that.
I mean, you've accepted the grant too? Approved applying for it, did you actually approve it? Because maybe that's.
I don't know if we ever got any, we can do it, we'll just do it now. Yeah.
Just accept the grant.
And then what we'll do is we'll approve just accepting the grant, and then when I get the information on the company and the quotes that we'll have for the restoration. Actually, it's very fascinating because the plan is to take the wooden carriage, the wheels and everything, that has really just deteriorated so badly that it'll be in aluminum. Looks very good, very professional organizations that do it. And the whole carriage, the wheels, everything will be all aluminum, nicely finished. And we take the Civil War cannon barrel and actually mount it on the new carriage. And I don't think anyone for a long time is gonna have to worry about replacing the carriage. So I entertain a motion that we accept the grant through the Senator Scoofus' office for $14,000 for restoration of the cannon.
So moved.
Second.
Move second, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Let's see, what did we do? We're just gonna approve these.
Yeah, there's no reason to get into it.
Okay. We have two certiorari proceedings that the town is addressing. We have to obtain appraisals for them. One is Village of Cornwall on Hudson on the Palomino plant and the Pex Road plant. And I would entertain a motion that we retain MAI of Sterling Appraisals to conduct the appraisal on both these facilities for a total amount of $1,000. Is there a motion?
1,000 for both of them?
500 each. Yeah. It's a different kind of appraisal than what's normally done. Is there a
So
motion,
moved.
Helen? Is there a
So
second?
moved, Yes.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion's carried. The second one is for Idlewild Creek Apartments, landmark. And have a proposal from Greystone Valuation Group. Cost of appraisal is $4,000 for preliminary appraisal. Full trial appraisal is required. There'll be an additional $4,000. And they have non-related appraisal expert testimony, but right now we're just approving $4,000 for the preliminary appraisal. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Move second, discussion. Yep, yes.
Can you explain to the public, is it okay to say what the bite is for? Like, they think 4,000 is a lot of money for an appraisal, so what it's assessed at and what they want it to be, can you tell that?
Yeah, you can certainly, if the board's so inclined, I mean, I wouldn't get into the merits of it or your personal opinions, but I would, if they wanna know the facts of what the claim is, if the board wishes, you can certainly discuss that.
Well, this is from Ira Levy, and it is more confidential litigation.
Okay.
I think probably the best.
Yeah, the only reason I want to say is just because it does talk about numbers, because they've had apparently some discussions and all, but the court requires that we get the appraisals. If we're,
You can't go forward without them.
yeah, if we're going to court, we have to have the
I
appraisals.
just thought they'd feel better about $4,000.
Yeah, no, it's just, we don't have a lot of choice.
It's okay.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion and a second.
Oh, we did it. All in favor, or roll call?
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. I have a memo from Chief Hazard regarding a part-time dispatcher. Respectfully request the town consider hiring Joshua Wendell, part-time dispatcher at the prevailing rate of $17.14 per hour. Mr. Wendell has experience in dispatch and would require a minimal amount of training. Is there a motion to?
Question for the chief. Is he leaving one of these three jobs?
Leaving one of the three, yes.
Okay. Otherwise, he wouldn't have time to work here.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? Discussion, roll call?
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. We are going to set the work session for the budget for next week. I asked everybody to bring their calendars. So we're looking at the week of the 15th, so I would say either 16th, 17th, or 18th.
I'm not good on the 18th.
All right, the 18th is out. And Carrie, you don't have the comp plan,
No.
because that's been changed.
Right.
You want to do the 17th, everybody good for?
What day is it on?
It's a Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm good on Wednesday.
Good on Wednesday? Good?
October 17th.
October 17th at 7 o'clock. We will be meeting at 6:45 because we have one applicant to interview for the Economic Development Advisory Committee position that's open.
That'll be upstairs.
That'll be upstairs. Okay, committee reports. Councilwoman Blunt?
Okay, so, the building department report, permits issued 16, CC 16, COs 1. On-site inspections 57, complaints investigated 5, stop work order 1, fire inspections 12, signs removed 3, permit fees $10,388, fees for municipal search $2,400, year-to-date, for this open this month, 9 in the planning and 9 in the zoning. And that's it for that report, and then you already have the report for the museum thing, so that
Right.
committee is over. Kovac, I don't have any committee report for. And the senior committee, we just had our picnic, which was very successful, that was Friday. Ozinski and Henderson did the music for us for free, so it was a very successful event. It was our second one, so I think it'll be something to look forward to every year. Today I did go to the Hotsy Totsy's, that was cute. So they're very active, and they went on a trip today, I believe. And so they keep them busy, and I think everyone's happy. That's it.
Good. Councilman Summerfield?
For cable and wireless, Verizon has officially notified their customers that the router rental will increase from $10 to $12, effective November 1st. And just a side note to box renters, new smart TVs do the same thing as the set-top box, so maybe it's an opportunity to upgrade your TV if you don't want to pay the extra couple bucks a month. Access to FiOS TV channel lineup is available 24/7 online at verizon.com/FiOS TV channels. I don't have anything for Spectrum. Central Hudson, I don't have anything except that CCAC, the Cornwall Conservation Advisory Committee, last month met, and the chairperson, Carla Castillo, gave a presentation on LED streetlights conversions for municipalities with an assist by Vice Chair Nicholas Moran. It was very in-depth and seemed clear that the town board should evaluate the conversion for Cornwall. There's a lot of homework to do, not just on the financial side, but on the lighting options, as there are a lot of different grades of lighting and wattages and many more options to choose from. So is this going to be on the work session?
We've actually been working on this for the past year and a half.
Right.
And we've been dealing with, NIPA has a program, and also Central Hudson has a program. And so we're waiting now to get a proposal again from Central Hudson, so that we can consider that. And then we'll actually have the two proposals and decide and discuss the pros and cons of each. So I'm hoping within the next month or two that we'll be talking about that again.
Chamber of Commerce didn't make their last meeting. However, in behalf of the Chamber and somewhat to the EDAC, I have some news regarding the 9W ramps. Back in July, I chatted with the New York State DOT East Orange County engineers to discuss what was required to get permission to landscape the entrance and exit ramps on 9W at Quaker and along 9W at Angola, Quaker, and Willow, to provide a more attractive and inviting entrances to Cornwall. As a matter of fact, I recently drove past the Willow Avenue ramp, and it looks like some community members have apparently taken it upon themselves to create a garden in one of the islands, and it looks really nice. And it's a nice template for what can be done at some of the other ramp islands on 9W. But my initial inquiries were to the county to duplicate the efforts of the Sullivan County Adopt and Exit program. If you've ever been on 17, you'll see they have an exit program for local community groups, landscapers, etc. And I'd always thought that would be a great thing for Cornwall to do. However, it's the DOT that is responsible for and has jurisdiction over 9W. So I discussed that with the engineers, but the conversation sort of went a different direction. We started talking about safety. There have been 3 single occupant run off the road accidents on northbound 9W at the Quaker Road exit. And there was also consideration of the ramps not being wide enough for 18-wheelers and buses to enter and exit the ramps on Quaker Road, both northbound and southbound. So what they said was that they would try to find budget money so that they could widen the ramps on 9W before the end of the season. And it looks like they actually did that. They found the funds. They've been working on it for the past week. They're going to be expanding the width of the ramps, which means that we get a go-ahead to look at landscaping and restoring the traffic islands on 9W at Quaker and along 9W at Angola and Willow.
You might not want to do that until after
Yeah,
the bridges
after the
are
bridges are done.
Well, that's true too. You can see that they use those as parking lots. But the DOT suggested that they had, their individual funds would complete the restoration of those areas. So what I'd like to do is continue to work with the Chamber and the EDAC for gateway welcome signs for the town and the village, business district, and Storm King Arts Center with landscaping and signage that directs people when they come off of 9W at Quaker, directs them to downtown or directs them to the Arts Center, and it also provides a welcome signage. Everything needs to be done according to decorative community gateway policy by the New York State DOT. It'll also involve the submission of user and occupant permit applications for which there are no costs for filing, and also a highway work permit 33, whatever that is. So this is a project that would benefit the town, the village, the Chamber of Commerce, and I think with the Chamber and the EDAC, this would be a great project to look forward to in the spring. And that's it.
Actually, the Main Street Committee is looking at improving the signage on the state highways and also on 107 to just let people know that we have a business district, a Main Street, and try to encourage people to come to it.
Good. Well, now we have a pathway to actually execute.
And one of the problems too, I just want to mention about the ramps and all, because the engineer from DOT did call me and said that Assemblyman Skoufis had gotten him the money to blacktop those 2 ramps. And then somebody in his office called me because they had gotten complaints about accidents in that area. And quite honestly, I conveyed to them what was conveyed to me a few years ago, and that is that the ramps on 9W are so antiquated that they don't do ramps like that anymore. They both should be T-intersection ramps, because right now, as we all know, if you come down and the divides, you're looking over your shoulder trying to see through your side window or your back window, and that's why people just pull out, because they don't see the cars coming. So I asked the Assemblyman's office to really convey that to DOT. You know, while they are blacktopping it and the ramps will be improved and all, but we really need them to bring them into, modern day standards and bring them into T intersections. Because the number of accidents, I think, Chief, you can confirm, well, if that northbound ramp especially, coming in, it's frequent. It's just, I learned a long time ago, when you enter that area, keep watching that car that stopped at that stop sign, because there's a good chance they don't see you. And invariably, they will pull out in front. But if you're not familiar with it, people just driving through, but it is hazardous. So we're hoping maybe when the bridge project gets done, maybe somehow they can get the money and really put those things into the T intersections that they really should be. The other thing I do want to mention on utility lines and poles and all, we got Central Hudson replaced most of the poles on Main Street, which, you know, we'd all like to see them disappear, but at least now they're not leaning in 9 different directions, and aesthetically they're a little better. One of the problems is that the cable company and Verizon come in after Central Hudson, so we have several double poles still there. But I've been working it through Central Hudson, and they've been in touch with Verizon and cable, and I'm hoping within the next few weeks that we're gonna see those double poles disappear finally, and just to help clean up from a aesthetic standpoint, that Main Street will look a lot better. It's bad enough having 10 poles, but we don't need 20. So we'll see how that goes, but I think we're heading in the right direction. I saw Central Hudson or Verizon working on one of the poles today, and hopefully removing it, so. Councilman Russell.
For the police department for September, there were 730 calls for service. There were 34 motor vehicle accidents reported, 46 alarms, 21 ambulance requests, 19 animal complaints, 17 disabled vehicles, 12 house checks, and 25 assists for other agencies. And we already covered No Shave November, the part-time dispatcher, and the roof repair as well. For the sewer department for Shore Road for September 2018, on top of routine maintenance, all measured parameters were within permit limits. So that's the good news. For Firthcliffe, on top of routine maintenance, the majority of the measured parameters were within permit limits. Unfortunately, flow remains a problem. We were 4/100ths over the acceptable limit. However, that's an estimate because the flow meter actually went down, and the new parts came in October 1st. But they still estimated we were 4/100ths over, so flow still remains an issue at the Firthcliffe facility. And then as far as recreation, we appreciate the vendor appreciation day that was approved. That's an appreciated thing for the rec department. That's it.
Thanks. Councilman McGinnis.
For the month of September, the highway department performed street sweeping townwide, road mowing townwide, spring trimming townwide, oil and chip work on Hasbrook Boulevard, Aaron Sky, Oak Tree, Tara, Clarkwood, Gadiri, and Old Mineral Spring Road. Performed basin repair, catch basins, and new pipe installation at Shore and Alder streets in Beaver Dam. And they assisted set up and clean up for the fall festival. The comprehensive plan committee meeting of October 17th has been canceled due to the fact that our consultant finds that she needs more time to put the revised plan together for the committee's review at our next meeting. Once we receive her completed revised plan, we will schedule the next meeting of the comprehensive plan probably 2 to 3 weeks after that to give the committee members a chance to review it. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. We have warrant number 10. Is there a motion to approve? Second discussion, roll call.
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Public comment on any item? Yes, Hector.
Yes, you mentioned something before, but I'm gonna go back to 1982. When we had an auxiliary, we used to patrol Main Street, and if my memory serves correct, there was signs, 2-hour parking. And we found out then that most of the store owners are the ones that park on Main Street. So the people that wanna go to a store, they never find a parking space, because the store owners, they have other places to park, but they park on Main Street. So if they complain about parking on Main Street, they have to park someplace else. That was 36 years ago, and it hasn't changed.
They used to mark the tires with chalk.
Yes,
And you got tickets.
right.
Okay, thanks, Hector. Anyone else? Yes, Ken.
Any update on the Curious Joe pipeline?
We, Steve, now you can, because Steve has communicated
Well,
with the attorneys.
a draft was circulated to both the town board and to the village board, Curious Joel. And we are, had some preliminary communications from their council, and they are taking it back to the village board, and we're awaiting further response from them as to the terms that they're proposing.
The village board being our village here? or the
No,
board?
they'll do Curious Joe.
Curious
also.
Joe. Okay.
So we're waiting. We expect very soon, I would think, very
The
shortly.
latest communication was apparently the holidays interfered with their,
Okay.
continuity of review until the Jewish holidays. So now they're, now they're up and running, and we should hear shortly.
Okay, no one else then? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
For second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Ayers?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you all for coming this evening.
Done and dusted.